Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're going to be talking about whether Trump broke Zuck. Did Trump break Mark Zuckerberg? Because he's becoming a human. It's crazy. But can we trust him? That's what everybody's asking. Did you see the announcement that he did on Instagram Reels just, 4 days ago? Let's listen in and figure this out, because he subsequently went on Joe Rogan's podcast, said a bunch of things that everybody already knew, and it's like, wow, he's actually starting to pull back and step up to the plate and be a man and just exist without trying to censor everybody. What is going on here? Let's take a look. And can we trust him?
My king's coming back, that's what I'm banking on. Wait and celebrate the grace of God with that filet mignon. I'm just saying we came along.
This discussion kind of starts back on Wednesday when Mark Zuckerberg posted this post on his Reels account.
Hey everyone, I want to talk about something important today because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed, so we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams. Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it. It'll take time to get this right, and these are complex systems. They're never going to be perfect. There's also a lot of illegal stuff that we still need to work very hard to remove. But the bottom line is that after years of having our content moderation work focus primarily on removing content, it is time to focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our systems, and getting back to our roots about giving people voice. I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Stay good out there, and more to come soon.
So there you have it. I mean, clearly something has changed. So he said that they are going to remove their fact-checking department. They're going to move towards a community notes style like X has right now, where all the users can participate in what gets, notes added to the content that says, this may or may not be true. But it doesn't actually stifle it doesn't censor except where it's illegal content. So child abuse, over the top, gratuitous or sexual content, types of content that absolutely should be banned on platforms will still be banned based on the law, but opinions of people will not be censored. This is a huge step forward. He also said that the gender ideology stuff that has, was meant to be inclusive ended up causing divisions, and it's gone too far. So they're pulling back on that. They're moving their content safety, I think he said, group from California to Texas. So it's not going to be a Democrat-run group of people with the leftist, woke mindset that censors everybody that they don't agree with. And so these are all amazing things that he's saying. So where is this change of heart coming from? I think we started to see something shifting in July. Not after Trump had the assassination attempt, although that was part of it. But before that, when we saw this. This is after all the crazy Bud Light stuff with the Dylan Mulvaney, all that stuff, and he shows up doing something expressively manly and shouting freedom as he's riding a surfboard, holding an American flag while drinking a beer. So this was kind of an indication that something was going on. And then he did this interview after the assassination attempt, where he was asked very poignantly about what he's thinking lately in terms of politics. And this is on the Bloomberg television. So let's take a listen in.
I want to talk about the 2024 presidential election.
Okay.
Facebook has been a flashpoint in many elections around the world, and you personally have been called out, most recently by former President Trump. This is a big election. What do you think is at stake?
Well, I mean, look, it's obviously a very important, and it'll be a historic election. I feel like I'm best positioned maybe to talk about what our role will be in it and what we're going to do. And look, I mean, the main thing that I hear from people is that they actually want to see less political content on our services because they come to our services to connect with people. So, that's what we're going to do, where we give people control over this, but we're generally trying to recommend less political content. So I think you're going to see our services play less of a role in this election than they have in the past. And personally, I'm also planning on not playing a significant role in the election. I've done some stuff personally in the past. I'm not planning on doing that this time. And that includes, not endorsing either of the candidates. Now, look, I mean, there's obviously a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. I mean, the historic events over over the weekend. And I mean, on a personal note, it's, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. But, and I think, look, at some level as an American, it's like hard to not get kind of emotional about that spirit. in that fight. And I think that that's why a lot of people like the guy. But look, I mean, we're living in a pretty crazy time, and I view our role here is to make it so that everyone can express their views on this stuff, but we're going to try to manage it so that way the politics doesn't drown out the human connection and the community, which is, I think, the main thing that people come to our services for. And we're not always going to get that right, but that's what we're going to try to do. And I think that that's probably the best role that we can play.
So he held true to his word. He really backed out of anything to do with this election that just happened. He didn't really, I mean, apart from this and, himself getting fit and in shape, and I think he and Elon, earlier in the year were threatening to fight each other, kind of in a funny way, potentially going to do a match in a ring. And Zuckerberg has been working out like crazy, getting himself in shape. And I think he would have won if there was a fight between him and Elon. So all of this been going on in the background. He held true to his word. He didn't really do much during the election. He didn't interfere. He didn't block stories or amplify different stories to try and get somebody elected like he did in the previous one. And this is where people are still, they're hearing him speak like this and they're not convinced that he's sincere, because it just seems like Trump's won, so now he's switching gears to be appealing to a Trump presidency rather than a Democratic presidency. That way he can be on the good side, and he's just trying to, keep winning. And I don't fault him for that. Like he wants to be in good stead with the government either way. That's what it sounds like, right? The difference here, though, is that this is a freedom-based government where all ideas are allowed to be put on the table and censorship is being pulled way back, and there's much more focus on individuals' voices. That's what the movement is that's happening right now online. That's why mainstream media is faltering like crazy. Meanwhile, podcasts are rising up and becoming the voices of the people. X has been doing extremely well because they've removed the straight up censorship that was happening before Elon owned it, which was revealed in Twitter files. Without Twitter files, I don't know if any of this would have been happening. I don't know if Trump would have won without Twitter files, really, because that exposed just how much the government's hand was in manipulating the stories that were allowed to be presented, and not just in social platforms like with Twitter and Facebook and others. YouTube is still doing a lot of censoring. Hopefully they don't censor this one, but in the news and mainstream media, and just how much they are bought off and paid for, propagandists presenting one side of certain stories, and all through the pandemic, how they suppressed information, and the Hunter Biden laptop thing, and all that stuff is all flowing into this and making people question whether Zuck is on the level or not. So Zuckerberg also went on to the Joe Rogan podcast. So here he is. Mark Zuckerberg says the Biden administration would call Meta to scream and curse at them to censor true information on their platforms. So now Mark Zuckerberg is revealing some of what was going on behind the scenes, and this is amazing, actually. So let's listen into this.
These people from the Biden administration would call up our team and like scream at them and curse, and it's like these documents it's all kind of out there.
Oh, did you record any of those phone calls?
I don't think we but I think
I want to listen.
I mean, there are emails. the emails are published. It's all kind of out there, and they're like, And basically, it just got to this point where we were like, no, we're not gonna take down things that are true. That's ridiculous. They wanted us to take down this meme of Leonardo DiCaprio looking at a TV talking about how 10 years from now or something, you're going to see an ad that says, okay, if you took a COVID vaccine, you're eligible for, for this kind of payment, like this sort of like class action lawsuit type meme. And they're like, no, you have to take that down. And we just said, no, we're not going to take down humor and satire. We're not going to take down things that are true. And then at some point, I guess, I don't know, it flipped a bit. I mean, Biden, when he gave some statement at some point, I don't know if it was a press conference or to some journalists, where he basically was like, these guys are killing people. And I don't know, then like all these different agencies and branches of government basically just like started investigating, coming after our company. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Wow.
So at the beginning, it kind of seemed like.
So he's talking about some of the COVID information and how they were blocking. They aggressively got more and more into blocking what was officially told them to be disinformation or misinformation, when a lot of it was actually truthful, coming from doctors' accounts being shut down, doctors being removed from the platform, losing their pages and communities, all types of stuff going on with the government heavy-handed pushing on them. And that was revealed in the Twitter files as well. So it's kind of cool to hear Zuckerberg confirming what was happening on the back end. But there's some other things to this. So let's see what people are saying here on X. So this is kind of all on this story. So there's obviously people that think he need to be, forget his apology. He admitted it. He should be in prison, blah, blah, blah. Breaking, Mark Zuckerberg met again with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago today. So he's definitely meeting with Trump more and more and working things out. And of course, Trump is trying to, rather than banning TikTok, that it can be owned in the US and have its data not shared to China, and just keep TikTok alive, but make it safer for US citizens. So we'll see if anything comes out of that. Here's Charlie Kirk saying on a new episode of Joe Rogan's podcast, Mark Zuckerberg blasts the Biden regime. They pushed us super hard to take down things that were true. Anything that says vaccines might have side effects, you basically need to take that down. So let's hear what this section is talking about.
At the beginning, it kind of seemed like, okay, we should give a little bit of deference to the government and the health authorities on how we should play this. But when it went from, 2 weeks to flatten the curve to, and like in the beginning, it was like, okay, there aren't enough masks. Masks aren't that important. To then it's like, oh no, you have to wear a mask. And, everything was shifting around. It just became very difficult to kind of follow. And this really hit the most extreme, I'd say, during the Biden administration when they were trying to roll out the vaccine program. And I'm generally pretty pro rolling out vaccines. I think on balance, the vaccines are more positive than negative. But I think that while they're trying to push that program, they also tried to censor anyone who is basically arguing against it. And they pushed us super hard to take down things that were true, right? I mean, they basically pushed us and said, anything that says that vaccines might have side effects, you basically need to take down. And I was just like, well, we're not going to do that. Like, we're clearly not going to do that. I mean, that is kind of inarguably true.
Who is they? Who's telling you to take down things that
it was
that talk about vaccine side effects?
It was people in the Biden administration.
It's kind of funny. This is saying that Mark Zuckerberg removes tampons from men's washrooms, says he now supports free speech, and declares that masculinity is no longer toxic. So apparently this is actually true, though, that they did remove the tampons from the men's washroom at the Facebook offices, which is kind of a indication that he's done with the DEI woke gender ideology, which is actually harming women, and they're deferring back to males use the male washroom, females use the female washroom. Let's keep the sexes divided. What you believe about yourself, you're free to do that in your own places, but don't invade other people's spaces based on your ideology. So that's interesting. That's an interesting statement on what's happening with him. Dr. Simone Gold. Mark Zuckerberg admits that the Biden administration demanded that Facebook actively censor and take down true posts about C-19 vaccine side effects. Many lives could have been saved if they simply allowed the truth. This was criminal. Here's another take. Why are so many people falling for this fake right-wing transition by Mark Zuckerberg? I don't buy it. Do you? So this is the question, right? Okay, let's just read this. This is the Honorable Jim Jordan, Chairman of the Committee on the Judiciary. I appreciate the committee interest in content moderation on online platforms. When was this? This was August 26, 2024. As you are aware, Meta has produced thousands of documents as part of your investigation and made a dozen employees available for transcribed interviews. Further to our cooperation with your investigation, I welcome the opportunity to share what I've taken away from this process. There's a lot of talk right now around how the U.S. government interacts with companies like Meta, and I want to be clear about our position. Our platforms are for everyone. We're about promoting speech and helping people connect in a safe way. In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take content down, and we own our decisions, including the COVID-19 related changes that we made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I also think we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. At the time, I feel strongly, like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. In a separate situation, the FBI warned us about potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption, allegations involving then Democrat presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. We've changed our policies and process to make sure this doesn't happen again. For instance, we no longer temporarily demote things in the U.S. while waiting for fact checkers. So this was back in August, what he sent to the Committee on the Judiciary of the United States, the House of Representatives. And so this is ringing true. So he's admitting they censored information based on the government for COVID and for the Hunter Biden laptop story. So this is good stuff. I mean, that all this is coming out now is good. But whether we trust him or not, that's the question. And here's Tim Pool's take on it. He was on Jesse Waters' show.
Tim Pool, host of Timcast. Are you buying the Zuckerberg transition?
I'm buying that he's a fair weather friend and that this is the path of least resistance. But hey, look, we're happy Trump won, so I'll take the power if he's shifting in this direction. But I think when you look at the Joe Rogan podcast and he talks about, oh, they're yelling at us and they're forcing us to do these things, this only scratches the surface. Facebook built a portal for feds to log in to their company so they could flag misinformation. It has long been known, over a decade, that the federal government, the FBI, the CIA, I think the NSA, had backdoor access to Facebook as well as many other companies. So when Zuckerberg comes out and he's all, oh man, they were yelling at us and putting this pressure. We had no choice to do it. You're only saying that now because the news and the information got leaked over a long and hard-fought battle where activists, real journalists, were exposing them for having done this. Now they're giving us the light vanilla version of, they were just having us censor this COVID stuff. No. Let me ask you a question, Mark Zuckerberg. Eric Ciaramella, do you remember that name?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the guys involved in whistleblowing on Donald Trump for the false impeachment against him related to Ukraine. And there was a period where if you went on Facebook and typed that name in any context, they would delete it without notification, no warning, no rule violation. That is extreme censorship, because covering up that name hid a news story of historical significance. We can talk about the laptop. That affected an election, massively important.
And then Joe ended up pardoning his son for the laptop that was real that you got censored for talking about.
Yep.
When Joe Biden says, I could have won, how do you react to that?
What was he underwater, like 14 points in the internal polling?
They didn't show him that poll.
It's really remarkable and scary, though. If you're a Democrat, who do they have? They don't have anybody. They've been desperate to ice out anybody who could compete with their established order.
And they don't have Newsom anymore. Is Newsom salvageable at this point?
When that video came out and Newsom was asked by Anderson Cooper, where's the water? And he said, they're figuring it out. That said right there, Newsom said, I am the governor and I have no idea what's going on in my state.
That picture of him with his hands in his back pockets staring at the fire, he's toast.
The fire stuff hits me really personally. I have a lot of friends deeply affected by it, and I don't want to sound crass. I see these natural disasters happen in the country, the hurricanes, and I feel for these people. And this may sound a little selfish, but when I have family and friends that are living in those hills, and I don't know if they're alive or dead, it hits me twice as hard. And I know it shouldn't, but it is personal. So I get really offended by the callousness and the apathy coming from the government there.
Yeah, we need a federal takeover of California. They're just not equipped to handle this. And we got the Olympics right around the corner. And you know I'm a big Olympics guy, Tim. So we can't have this happening on my watch.
I hear you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
There is a lot for Zuckerberg to overcome here. So it's interesting just how all this played out, and just the massive misinformation campaign against Trump that's been going on for years. And I say this with a little bit of trepidation because, I don't support everything Trump does, but I really came to this place where I'm like, they are literally trying to take him out every single day with false stories and manipulation. So now he's been convicted of these 34 felonies. So he is now a felon officially, but that's exactly what the Democrats wanted to do. And then, so now it's like, what does it mean? It's just like when the left calls the right wing Nazis. Well, now you're diluting what the name Nazi means, because you call anybody who disagrees with you a Nazi. It's kind of the same thing with the Trump. They've been trying so hard, so long to take Trump down. This is why there's been this huge backlash against it. This is why mainstream media is falling, because everybody's coming out and saying enough is enough. Stop trying to take down your opponents while pretending you're on the high road and you're actually manipulating the masses through mainstream media and your inner circle and your power brokers. This is why Elon bought Twitter. He did it because he was sick of the misinformation coming out. He thought, if I buy it, I will make it a free speech platform. Now, this is putting him in a weird position now, because he's come out. He wasn't necessarily in favor of Trump when he started all this, but he's now come out, and now he's going to be on the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and he's also running this huge social media platform. So now it's almost like the pendulum is switching the other way. So now we're going to have to watch that that we're not getting propaganda and too much happening from the right side now. It's like it's just, we just lived through like 1984 style events where, you know, your speech was watched and how you presented yourself, and if you said the wrong things, you didn't use the right pronouns, you were canceled, you were knocked off, you know, fired from Disney like Gina Carano, you know, you were eliminated from social media or put in prison if you were praying outside of an abortion clinic, you know, like just insane things going on. Now the UK is going through these insane things. And it's like people are waking up and saying, this has to stop. We need to get back to the basics, get back to traditional values. Oligarchs are falling. What's been forced on us from above, from elites, is no longer trusted. And platforms that allow people to share their voice and share news information in a fast way are rising up and gaining momentum, and the kind of mass disinformation or controlled information is being pushed aside. So there's good, and I'm sure there's bad to that too. But I think generally it's good because people can explore and study for themselves all the viewpoints, hash it out, debate online, and come to conclusions on things with the help of God, for those who believe in God, that we can have wisdom to uncover truth in our society and hold a banner of truth up. So it all comes down to God, that we are called as Christians, those of us who are Christians watching this, we're called to be people of truth, people of the book, people who believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and life, and shine that out. And sometimes society represses that, and we still need to stand, no matter what, for truth. And so I think there's a lot of people of faith that are rising up and saying, I'm sorry, I don't agree with you. This is what God says, and I'm going to stand on God's word. I believe God over anybody else. And I think that's a very healthy thing, actually. People are turning back to God. If we don't hold to the values that founded North American society, Western society, if we don't hold to the values that founded Western society, and I'm sorry, but the left and the woke left, like the extreme progressive left, is trying to destroy the foundations of Western society. If we don't hold to it, we will collapse into chaos. I can't even imagine where the things of God are so far removed. It'll be end time events. It'll be like the days of Noah before the flood. So I came across this verse, and I thought this fits with the times that we're in right now. So take a look at this. This is Psalm 119, 161 to 168. This is from the Message, because I like the way it reads on this particular verse, but I definitely don't use the Message for my main Bible reading. But listen to this. It says, I've been slandered unmercifully by the politicians, but my awe at your words keeps me stable. I'm ecstatic over what you say, like one who strikes it rich. I hate lies, I can't stand them, but I love what you have revealed. 7 times each day I stop and shout praises for the way you keep everything running right. For those who love what you reveal, everything fits. No stumbling around in the dark for them. I wait expectantly for your salvation. God, I do what you tell me. My soul guards and keeps all your instructions. Oh, how much I love them. I follow your direction, abide by your counsel. My life's an open book before you. So that's my prayer for you guys, that you would be an open book before God. Lay your life down, trust him. As for Mark Zuckerberg, well, we'll see how things go in the future. I would say he's making a legitimate, or at least he's taking the steps to make a change in the right direction. So that is good, and we should applaud him in that. I don't think people should be tearing him down and saying, throw him in jail. I don't care if he's apologetic about things. I don't think that gets us anywhere in society. We need to allow people to process and move in the right direction and make corrections in their life and changes. So we'll see how this plays out in the future. Facebook becoming more like X is a good thing. It will be more of an open place. Maybe with the change of government here in Canada, we'll actually be able to see news content on Facebook again. That will be something. Because right now, news is banned on Facebook because of the Canadian government. You can look at some of my other videos on that. Maybe I'll post it up here if you want to see information on that. Anyways, thank you for your time. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share it with your friends. I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out on D-Rock. And we will see you on the other side. Be blessed.
To reaching the top of the summit, I was about yay high when Yahweh told me to run it. Only a matter of time before my mob be to hit in 100. I swore a sign, he told me to pay more attention, he already done it.